it's only a matter of time. They got the dough, I got the loaf, it's different the way that we dine. They got the bands, we laying hands, it's different the way that we bind. They got a clan, we got a fam, you understand? Look, eyes on it, we stay hawking in haunts us.
What's up, fam? Welcome back to the Time is Ripe podcast. My name is Scott Smith, and I am your host here on the Time is Ripe. This is a podcast of Ripe Creatives, which is a ministry based in the great city of Philadelphia that leverages the arts for the purpose of missions. Basically, we use the arts to try to make an impact on people's lives. And we're like a creative community. We do a whole bunch of different things. We got artists. We got a worship team. It's a great time all around. Here on this podcast, we do something very unique where we go back in time to different dates within our community where we talk about events that we hosted or events that we went to. Sometimes we're talking about like a one-off concert event or a festival or something like that. Every once in a while, we're talking about like a whole weekend gig where we got to go away for a few days together. Today is one of those where we're talking about a retreat called Breakaway Middle School Retreat. It happens every year, usually in the fall, not to be confused with the Breakaway Conference hosted by Youth for Christ in the spring. These are two totally separate things. But the dates for this particular episode were September 27th through the 29th, 2024, in a faraway land called Maryland. There's a place called Northbay Adventure Camp. It's amazing. And to talk about this weekend, tell the story, share the impact, all that kind of stuff, I got three amazing guests. First up is the producer of this podcast, but he also played a very specific role in this whole breakaway thing. Jarrett TopMop Moses, welcome back.
Was that enough of a wait time after you finished announcing me? I'm back. I'm here. Last time we edited one of these, Scott got mad because he's like, you never let me finish announcing you before you talk. So now I'm waiting.
So much haterade. So much haterade. This is how we're starting today's episode. Awesome. Jarrett TopMop Moses produces, edits, releases these podcasts. We love him, even if he's trolling me right now. Shout out to Jarrett Moses. Also, returner to the pod. She's on a lot of these episodes, all the gallery episodes she's a part of, but also the worship episodes. A lot of the Ripe Worship related episodes she's a part of as well, because she helps lead the Ripe Worship team. She also happens to be on staff with Ripe Creatives, doing a whole bunch of different things. Emily Phillips, welcome back to the pod.
Hey, I'm super excited to be back.
Are you though?
I am.
Okay. I hope
she woke up 5 minutes ago to get here for this.
She took a nap. Hey, listen, it's
crazy.
Good times. Good times.
Sunday
Emily
naps are the
Phillips,
best.
it's always a joy to have you on the podcast. We're thankful you're here. And she helped lead the team to Breakaway. Now, our last guest is also a returner, ironically. She was on the Refresh episode from this season in May, I think, March or May. We went to a place called San Francisco and did a whole conference out there. And we got to talk to this amazing young lady on that episode. But she's back. Meghan DeHaven, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me back. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, Meg is amazing. She's on staff with this organization called In Faith. And we talked about that on the past episode from earlier in this season about Refresh, about In Faith at length. But the other thing that she does is this Breakaway Middle School Retreat. She's been doing it for years and years and years. So I will say on that last episode, we did talk a lot about Breakaway, actually on that episode as well. So if you want like more extensive context for Breakaway, I would actually encourage you to go back and listen to the Refresh episode because we go through it at length. But Meg, I do think it's worth, even as a refresher, to be worthwhile to talk about. Thank you for that. I'm glad you caught that. It'll be worthwhile to talk about Breakaway's history again here for people who are just tuning in for the first time. So yeah, give us like a history lesson on Breakaway specifically, this middle school retreat every fall.
Sure. So Breakaway started a long time ago. I actually went as a 6th grade student myself. There's a local church called Church of the Savior. They started it, ran it for many years. And then when I stepped into ministry as a youth director, Church of the Savior had passed off leadership to another church who invited me to step onto the leadership team. And they ran it for a year. And at the conclusion of that year, they asked if I would take the leadership reins at that point. And I was happy and excited to do so. So I've been running Breakaway with a team of people. My husband is a part of it and a couple other youth leaders. And we've been doing it for, I think, about 14 years now. So it's a middle school retreat that's designed to really enable youth leaders to invest in the lives of their students and to build relationships. So what we try and do is do all of the logistics. We take care of the speaker, the band. We even provide small group questions to really try and minimize distractions, not only for students, but for their leaders as well, so they can really just live life alongside of their students and just get the most out of that time together. And it's been a gift because we've been able to maintain that vision over the years. And our hope is to meet the spiritual needs of both kids who are churched, but also those who are unchurched. And so we see about, I'd say it's probably half and half the kids who come church versus unchurched. And I think they're each uniquely met in their own spaces and faith journey when they're there. But yeah, that's just a brief history of
it's
what
so
it is.
good. Yeah, I know we talked about it so much on the last episode. I'm like, I don't just want to say everything again, but it is, I've been a part of it for a very, very long time.
Yes, you have. Yep.
Because I am old as dirt. And I've actually gotten to host it a few times. I've gotten to speak at it back whenever it was like 2 weekends, because I think that's so stinking big they had to split it over 2 weekends.
Jeez.
Done like the games and helped out with the kitchen crew and ran errands one year and just like been a part of it over the years. So a lot of great memories throughout Breakaway. And it's crazy, like some kids that I met at Breakaway are now married and stuff. And you're like, oh, jeez, I'm that guy. I'm the old guy that's seeing all these kids grow up and like start families and stuff. So just amazing testimony of like legacy for a very, very long time. You said, has it been over 20 years since Breakaway first started?
Well over 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm almost 40 and I went as a sixth grader. So it was fairly new when I was in sixth grade. So that was like 96, I think. So yeah, it's
almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was born in 99.
See, it's before Emily was born.
I was born in 96.
It's old. It's old.
Great, guys. Fantastic.
Glad to make you feel better about yourself, Scott.
Fun. Let's talk specifically about post-pandemic.
Sure. Yeah.
Because obviously pandemic shut it down for at least a year.
Just 1 year.
Just 1 year. Okay.
Yeah.
So pandemic shuts it down because, it is a fall thing. So by the fall of 2021, you guys were bringing it back.
Yep.
And that first year was just like, we got to do something to get it back.
Yes.
Probably not going to be to the scale of what it was before because the world has changed, obviously. And but you guys did it. You brought it back in 2021.
We did. Yeah.
And then coming off of the heels of 2021, I think we had a conversation almost immediately after that year about, hey, we Breakaway. Yep. We feel like it has returned.
Yep.
We want to figure out how do we do this well, and like, can we talk about artists and worship team stuff? And all that jazz. I don't know what you remember about that. But.
Yeah, no, it looked really different, and we were really unsure of the future of Breakaway. We had, I think, just about 100 kids come that year. We met outside. We did worship in a gym. It was really different feel. But we felt like the Lord was confirming the future of Breakaway through that retreat that weekend. And so, that's when I reached out to Scott. Mostly Scott, because I really trust your ministry instinct and your heart for ministry. So I think it was twofold. It was probably a little bit selfish to be like, if I can get Scott on board with this, I think that would also confirm that the Lord is leading this to continue. And if you said no, then I was also recognizing that maybe, it was time for something different. So the ministry potential and partnership that you were able to help me step into with, bringing the worship team along, I think really settled things as far as moving forward with Breakaway. So at that point, we moved forward and we brought Right Worship on, and you guys even brought, I think, a few different artists that year just to help us out.
We did. Yeah, we were just kind of like, you know what? Like, let's just serve. and try to figure this out. And I think Abel came. I know Leah Wren came that first year. Angie DJ'd and ran sound. And then Dreamer.
Yes.
The Dreamer came as well. Because you guys were also running into weather
Yes.
that year. And we knew it was going to be bad weather because it was like a hurricane or something. And so there were a lot of the outdoor stuff wasn't going to be possible.
Absolutely.
And so it was like, hey, can we figure out like an indoor concert kind of vibe to just give the kids something to do in case like they're inside all day. So that was kind of the idea there. But you give me entirely too much credit because you guys were going to do it with or without me. That's for sure. I
don't know about that.
I'm just a guy. But that 2022 year went super, super great. At the end of that, couple changes. You were like, look, we want to go bigger into the worship thing.
Yes.
With Ripe Worship. Not sure if the artist thing is going to make sense until we find some funding and resources as a retreat.
Yeah.
But one thing we definitely want to do is bring Jarrett in. Ant was like, this was awful, trying to do both.
Just to defend him, it wasn't awful. I think he felt overwhelmed, and we did not want that for him.
Oh, yeah. I'm not
Just
saying
from-
he was awful. I'm saying he didn't
production
enjoy it. He did not
Correct.
enjoy it.
No, he did not. It was way too many hats to wear for him.
He was like DJing with an iPad, controlling all of the artists
from the stage.
behind the stage, behind
kind of.
the speakers.
Yeah.
Having been in that room multiple times now, that is impossible to do anything on that stage for the room.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound the same. And like I've played with things on the stage, walk out and be like, wow, that's terrible, and undid everything I just did.
Yeah. I believe that.
So they basically made the flip
Yeah.
to have Jarrett come down and run sound, which I know probably set you guys at ease a little bit too as Ripe Worship.
Oh, absolutely. Jarrett knows exactly how to mix Ripe Worship.
I was really excited when you asked, actually, because when you mentioned the camp, I'm like, why does that sound familiar? And then someone sent me the address and I'm like, oh, I grew up in that town. Like I had a soccer coach when I was a little kid who was like the maintenance guy for that camp. So I've been there before. I grew up in that town. We drive by my old Little League field to get there.
That's amazing. Shout out to Jarrett going to homecoming for Northbay Adventure Camp.
That's crazy.
It's fantastic.
That's crazy.
But so that was 2023, and that went super well.
Yeah. For sure.
Was that was your first year? Was 2023, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so then 2024 coming back, no brainer. Let's do Ripe Worship again. Let's have Jarrett come back. So that kind of sets the stage for this. Now, Emily, this was actually your third time in a row going
It was, yeah.
and helping lead the team. And I think the first two times you were like the solo leader of Ripe Worship at that point, or at least of this gig. You have since handed over Ripe Worship leadership to, you still have it, but given it to other people as well,
Yep.
which I think has been healthier for everybody.
Oh, yes.
So it's not just all on you. So who was your team specifically for this year?
This year, so it was the Ripe Worship leadership team, which is Olivia and Mike Weatherby, Esteban and Priscilla Nieves, Rashid, and
You
myself.
and Chase.
And Chase.
Because we had to make the
Chase.
key change last minute.
Yeah, Chase was playing keys, and that was his first Ripe Worship gig. So it was like a lot of firsts. It was the first time that we had a team that big. It was the first time the leadership team was there, and it was Chase's first Ripe Worship gig. So it was a sweet weekend.
That's what's up. Chase Carroll, the man, the myth, the legend.
I love it.
Hopefully he stays a part of Ripe Worship or becomes a part of Ripe Worship.
We did officially
We should send him this podcast.
You officially asked at that gig. I don't know if it counts as the first one yet.
Yeah, I mean,
He's been asked for a year. He's being a punk.
we made the official in-person ask with answering question time in the living room of the Airbnb.
That's fantastic. So really good team. I mean,
Yes.
anytime you have the Ripe Worship leadership team all together, which is rare. I mean, a lot of times I would say a gig, 2 of you out of the 5 are usually going, right? Because that's kind of how we function as a team successfully is as long as 2 of the 5 can lead, then it can be a Ripe Worship gig and they can put together a team. and go together. But this was the first year, like you said, that all 5 of you guys got to be on stage together. And then Rashid was the drummer, who's a fantastic drummer. And I think he did vocals on Sunday as well.
He did, yep.
And Chase got to be a part of the weekend for a couple of the days on keys. And he is a phenomenal keyboard player.
He's super solid. Shout out to my to the worship leader at my church at Church of the Good Samaritan, Josh Gunther, because he filled in Sunday morning because some of our team had to head back to get to their own churches for Sunday morning. And he was already going to be there as a leader for our church's youth group that went.
So
Good
he
daddy.
played acoustic, super helpful.
And sang.
It was great. And he did sing, yeah.
Joshua Gunther, the Gunth Daddy.
That's
Don't say that.
insane.
I'm leaving it in there.
His wife is going to think that's hilarious, I hope.
Oh, yeah, she is.
Meg, on your end, what churches came this year? Like, how many total attendees were there?
Sure. This year, I think we had 14 different churches represented.
Sheesh.
We had a new church come from Washington, D.C. So things are growing in areas that are new for us even. We were super blessed. Another youth pastor invited another friend who invited a friend. So anyway, word is getting around, and that's super exciting just for the ministry and the impact that Breakaway is having. So the majority of the churches, though, were from the kind of local Philadelphia area. Mm-hmm. So we had Narberth Presbyterian Church, Church of Good Samaritan, right? We had Manoa Community Church. We had Doylestown UMC. We had Paoli Pres. There was a lot of different churches. So anyway, it was a good representation of churches across the area. Yeah. The thing that I think has been such a blessing to us running Breakaway is the consistency of churches. Churches after the pandemic have really started to return to Breakaway, coming back. And the thing that I think is most exciting is that youth groups are growing again. During the pandemic, churches suffered across the board. There's no doubt about that. And so youth ministry was a part of that. And so we saw the reality of that. Churches were coming back who previously had 100 kids come back with like 15, sometimes 20. And this year, from last year, we had about 207 kids come. And this year we were over 300. But we only increased by one church. So that means that church numbers are growing. And that, for us, was just so exciting. So there's a real spirit of unity amongst the churches that I haven't seen in a while, even pre-pandemic. And not that there was an intentional division or disunity, but I do think the pandemic created some space for us as youth leaders to really be having deep conversations about faith and recognizing our differences and learning and teaching young people how to disagree and have conversations about faith well. And I think we're seeing the impact of that in this next generation. And so that's just a real encouragement to me to see those churches thriving and growing in that way.
Yeah, I also think the pandemic was like, a lot of people got popped in the face.
For sure.
And it created a sense of like humility and dependence of, you know what, maybe I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't have this all figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my way isn't the only way.
Yeah.
To be able to navigate these things, which ultimately I think breeds a level of relationship that can happen and unity that can happen.
I think there's a depth of authenticity that's occurring across a lot of churches and church families, or people of faith. And it's exciting to see it.
Amen. Yeah, it's also cool that so many of the churches that we, as Ripe Creatives, interact with over a calendar year and do other stuff with even are a lot of times these churches at Breakaway. Like there's a lot of cross-pollination of relationships. Shout out to Manoa. We love them. We do a whole bunch of different things with them throughout the year. Jarrett's actually working at Good Sam, doing all their sound engineering at the church over there. And we've done different events with even COS, who you talked about at the beginning of this episode. So there's like a lot of good, like it's all interconnected.
Absolutely.
And I think we've just become an asset to churches at large in the region. But a part of the way that they get connected to us is through us being at Breakaway. So it's kind of a win-win-win all the way around for everybody. Talk to me about the framework of the weekend. Sure. Meg, you can jump in. Emily, obviously you know it. Jerry, you know it as well. But it's a weekend shenanigan, Friday night through Sunday morning. What does that What's that look like for students?
Yeah. We kick off with our first club, is what we call our sessions. That's a term I inherited. So club starts at 9 p.m. on Friday night. And I think we've worked hard. And one thing I appreciate is I think Ripe has really understood the need to kind of hype the kids up, because they're coming off of a long day of school. It's the beginning of the school year. Kids are exhausted. So 9 p.m. can kind of be this like hit or miss time. So yeah, we kick off club at 9, and then we end with small groups that night. And then Saturday morning, again, we have a session called club, and then Saturday night. But all day Saturday afternoon is free time. So kids are just enjoying. There's adventure elements, free time, there's crafts, there's a snack bar. I think one of the things that kids really enjoy about Breakaway is their independence. I think we are introducing them to owning their faith relationship with Christ, like in as a whole. Like, I really believe worship can be like playing and talking and singing and just enjoying God's creation. And so my intent for the weekend of Breakaway is to have them just enjoy life as Christ intended it. And so the more that we can kind of put them right in that space where it's like, oh my gosh, this was so fun. Like, I had fun while I was also worshiping God, I think is a really important connection for kids to make.
Especially middle school.
Especially middle schoolers. So yeah, so Saturday, and then Saturday night we have club again. And we often do some type of challenge, whether it's an invitation to come to faith, an invitation to grow deeper in your faith, all of those things. And then Sunday, we wrap it up and then send them home by lunchtime. So it's a quick weekend. But I'm sure Jarrett and Emily can share more of kind of their perspective on that schedule. And
I mean, what you said about the whole independence thing is really cool, because there's a couple kids from my church that I would not trust doing anything alone.
Yeah.
Some of them, it's like, luckily I've built a relationship with them, so I'm just once or twice through the weekend I was like, yo, shape up. But I love seeing like all of them run around and feel like they're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
But I was really grateful Friday night that we started late.
Yes.
Because it was an interesting weekend, because I was coming straight from a good friend of mine's wedding, good old Raph the Sav, Raphael, and his wife Kelsey.
Raffy Taffy.
I love him, but why he chose a Friday, I will never know, for his wedding. But I was able to get there. We got started. Rough start, but we took off.
Yeah, we took off.
But yeah, the weekend went really well. There was always lots of time for us to get everything figured out, and you're always very straightforward about what you need,
Sure.
which helps out a lot on my end to make everyone's life easier. Like, my whole goal is to just make all of the services easy, and it's easier to make it easy when I know what you want.
And you do make it easier.
Hey, what about from your end, Emily? Just like thinking about the framework of the weekend.
Something Ripe Worship does really well that is hard to do is that we can kind of fit whatever is being asked of us. So whether that's we want really upbeat and hype praise songs, like we'll do it and we'll do it well. But we can also build that bridge into worship that is slower, that is more focused on who Jesus is and focus on the cross, and that slows it down and it requires a little bit more attention. And especially for middle schoolers, it's hard to like get them to that place and keep them engaged. But when making set lists, our team knows that like in order to get them to the deep moments, you have to like win them over, win their trust over with the fun. Because if you like get them by their hands at the fun parts, you can lead them to the deep parts and they'll actually go with you. And so I think this weekend, and every time we do Breakaway, like it's just, we have such a good time, like enjoying the presence of the Lord while also like going deep with kids and watching them like encounter the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the whole weekend is just that.
And I think one of the things Emily touched on that's so important, when we've led Breakaway over the years, we've always said like, we want a team who's leading worship, but also teaching worship, because we have so many kids who never have experienced what it is to worship God through music. And so we want people to embody a posture of worship when they're up front and not just perform or not just, be their best selves, but really to engage the students. And I so appreciate that Ripe comes together as a team and enjoys the presence of God together, so that when kids see them, they can emulate them, because it really teaches them how to worship themselves and how to become worshipers. And one of my favorite things that I think Emily and her team have done so well is, whether it's intentional or not, I don't know, because we've actually never talked about it, is every year they have gifted a song to youth groups as kind of like a theme song that I've seen at Manoa Church. That's where I'm serving currently. Like, we take it home and then we have this music that they can sing week after week. This year it's on the back of our t-shirts for our youth group because of the song Ripe sang last year at Breakaway. But for a kid who maybe has never been to church and might not ever go back to church, for us to equip them with scriptural truths through music, which I think kids are connecting to music oftentimes even more than a conversation or than even what the speaker shares, I think is such a spiritual gift for them to take away and walk home, and to like just think about. And years later, I think it comes to their mind, like whether it's during a hard time or a good time. And that to me is discipleship. We get to disciple them for 48 hours and we're hoping they go home and continue to be discipled. But for those who don't continue, I know that a seed is planted. And so just that we get to be intentional together, everything from music to the fun, to the words spoken, to the relationships built. But I think Emily and her team have really driven that home in some powerful ways. And yeah, we had a baptism this year of a girl who came to Breakaway last year. And that song, I think, was integral to her relationship growing with the Lord this year. And that's what the beauty of collaborative ministry to me is, because I can't sing. I'm never going to be able to do that. But you guys have done that so well. So I really appreciate that, the connection and collaboration that we have to be able to lead kids through that weekend so well. So
I was wondering what the significance of that baptism was. Because when I saw it, I thought there were like 5 kids and there was just one. And I was like, we're done?
Yeah.
All that for one?
I know. Yeah. She missed baptism Sunday at our church. And yeah, last year Breakaway was huge. So this year she said, can I do it there?
Love that.
Yeah,
It can be one,
cool.
Jared.
It can be one, but I'm just like, there's got to be some significance to this
99
other than just asking today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. No, it sounds like it's been a really good fit all the way around. I mean, you guys have already kind of been talking about it, but I would love to just hear even about this specific weekend. Like what happened? Like what was some of maybe the impact that you guys saw?
Yeah.
I heard that the speaker did fantastic.
Yeah.
I heard he made Ripe Worship do the doxology every session.
Every session.
Shout out to the doxology.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel? Your numbers were increasing. It was a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
How did that feel? How'd the weekend go?
Yeah. I actually expect our numbers to decrease this year,
We were that bad?
which was not a result of you guys. I just have seen churches declining. And so last year I thought we barely made our contract number last year. So this year I really decreased it and we doubled the number that we contracted for, which is super cool. But yeah, I mean, I think the impact of the weekend overall was significant. I think leaders in particular really owned just the relationship side of things and being present. And one thing I will say that I think, again, unintentional, but also intentional, Scott, you talked about how you guys have built relationships with a lot of these churches kind of apart from and separate from Breakaway. And one leader in particular came to me and she said, one of the reasons we're here is because Right Worship is here, because we trust them to lead our students well. And so if you trust them and we trust them, we have a pretty good idea this is going to be a decent event. And I think that's, like, again, that beauty of collaborative ministry, because people are willing to share their kids with us because of the people up front. I do think that's something that COVID did, is it caused people to really question everything. And so you don't have just like the longevity of like, well, it's been going on for years, so we're going to continue to do it, right? Because COVID shut everything down. So people really got the opportunity to reevaluate, what am I going to spend my time and money on? And so I think the partnership with Ripe has enabled the ministry of Breakaway to continue, again, because of the authentic faith of the people leading up front and the trustworthiness of that relationship. So that was a big takeaway for me this year, just hearing a leader say, like, because of that relationship, we were able to say, this is good and this is worth our time and money. So that was significant for us. But I think additionally, spiritually, there's so many different things happening. We've had leaders who just shared really deep things that they're walking through. And Breakaway has created kind of this timestamp each year for them to evaluate where they've been and where they're going, and for them to kind of taste and see that the Lord is good. Sometimes it's for a moment, but sometimes it sets them up for that whole year. And so I think, them being able to experience that as leaders is important. But I think students, we had a dad come up and share with me this year that in 2023, his daughter gave her life to Christ, and he was really unsure. It was unexpected for him. They had just started getting back into the church. They weren't even really at church because they wanted church. It was just kind of an escape for their family. And so his daughter gave his life to Christ, and he happened to be there as a chaperone. He was quick to define it was a chaperone, not as a leader. And this year they both were there. And he said it's been one of the hardest years of their life. But his daughter texts her friends scripture almost every morning, reminding them of God's faithfulness in spite of the hardship of her life. But her recognition of God's faithfulness is so good. And he said, coming back to Breakaway, again, created kind of that timestamp of recognizing God's goodness in their family in spite of the hard things that are happening and the chaos that has ensued in their lives. And so when I hear things like that, for me, that's what makes it worth it. To remind people that God is still on the move. God is still good, and he's still bigger than all the problems in our lives. But I think to embody that through something like worship and to experience that for kids, and like I said, like inviting them into the wholeness of the goodness of God is what we're trying to do. So yeah, those were the impact for me this year that was really significant.
Yeah, that dad came up to us like before the weekend was over and just shared like what his past year has looked like, and just thanked us, and we got to pray for him, and it was like a very sweet moment. And I think it was a moment of like, wow, there's significance here. There's like, it's important to be here and serve here, and just the fruit that's already coming is sweet.
Yeah. The other thing that I guess is a little bit off topic, but I guess I wanted to share. One of the reasons that I continue to partner with you guys and with your worship team is because I think I know for me that I can fully trust what it is that you're going to do in that space. And so I can give limited direction and know that you can read the room and respond to the movement of the Holy Spirit in that space. And it won't be something that's fake or conjured up or trying to emotionally engage kids. I try to be really careful that we don't emotionally direct kids in a spiritual way that could negatively impact them in the long run. And I think you guys really bring a real sense and commitment to discerning the movement of the Holy Spirit in a space, but also recognizing the audience that you're working with and the kids that you're trying to teach how to worship. Because I think as an adult, it could be time to be like, let's just worship for 2 hours in here. Like, this is so good. And kids would just like literally fall off if we did that. And for you guys, like, to really hit it home, recognize that, still engage them. And Emily, I know this year in particular, you took some time to really explain what it is to know God and who Jesus is. And I know that you talked about, the song too, but I think there is, you were speaking really from a place of where God has worked in your life. And I think that just connected with kids in a way to be like, oh, she's not just singing, there's more to her. And there's a story, there's a life, there's a relationship with God. And for girls in particular, I think to see a woman on stage leading in that way is powerful and important. And I imagine that there's far more fruit that has come or will come because of that than we'll ever have the privilege of knowing. But as a mom of a daughter who gets to see that and the encouragement it brings to her in her own faith journey as a kid, it's been instrumental and significant for us personally. So you guys are doing good work.
Thanks. Cries. What?
This is why we told you to get up from your nap and get to the podcast. No, it's so good. I think, I mean, we've kind of already been talking about it, but I would just love to like land the plane about Breakaway 2024, just talking about this relationship between, you know, Ripe and Breakaway long term, like moving forward. And obviously you guys can make different decisions at any point, but it seems like this is like a thing. Like the Breakaway Ripe creatives doing this together, at least for now, is like a plan year over year. And I just, you know, kind of want to affirm, I think it has a lot to do with the way that we operate as a ministry, that it's not just about the 30 minutes on stage, right? Because you guys are leading worship for 30 to 40 minutes every session, maybe 20 for some of them even. You're there for 20 hours or 28 hours or whatever, right? You're 36 hours. Like, you're only leading worship technically on stage in front of kids for less than 10% of the time that you're a Breakaway. And then there's some time where you got to prep, rehearse, sound check, right? Maybe change some things, meet to debrief a session. But there's a lot of other hours that you're just with kids. And I think that that's a part of what gets them buy-in. It's not just that they're amazing singers and they're amazing musicians. It's that in the middle of the afternoon, they're probably going to be on a swing, you know, at the big swing or something with some kids, or they're going to be on a zip line cheering kids on that they met the night before. Like that relational connection piece is what so many artists and musicians and worship leaders miss. And it frustrates the mess out of me, because the whole point should be to do ministry, right? And how you have to gain trust. You have to build trust. And it takes time to do that. So that's just something I wanted to even name about this. I think that that's like the testimony that I always get from a leader. Like after the weekend, like Ripe Worship did amazing, but it's always connected to, and they met my student who was really struggling, and they had a conversation, and that made them buy in for the weekend in a way that they never would have. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think even like on stage, yes, off stage, even more so, they have to see us as real people. Like we're a different age demographic than their leaders mostly, or than their parents. And so they can see us as like, oh, these are young people still. But there's also the aspect of like, there have been so many times where kids like, can we have your autograph? And like stuff like that. Like they think that we are famous people. We're not. But like in the midst of like their perspective of us, we're able to like open up and show like, I'm a real life person and I'm actually following Jesus. Right. And that's where the impact comes. It's not this like, we could play basketball all day long with kids and never say a word about Jesus. And if we didn't really love him so well and follow him, then like these kids would go home and know how to play basketball really well. But instead, it's like, we're going to play basketball and we're going to like talk about Jesus, and we're going to like then go on stage and worship Jesus, but from a place of, I want to worship Jesus and I want you to come with me, and you have the choice to come with me, but I'm going to go either way. I think that's where the impact of like on their faith comes in, because like we're real. We're not celebrities. We're not people who are like manufacturing worship. It's like our worship that we want to take kids with us in. And I think that we love Breakaway. We love, this is our favorite weekend of the year.
Ours too. The other thing too, Emily, that you mentioned that I think you guys, again, just do so well, is there's a lot of different churches, which means there's a lot of different church music styles and experiences that come to play. And one thing that I think has been really unique to the way that you guys lead is, and again, with not having much music background or expertise, I feel like you invite everyone into the worship space, regardless of our history or experience with a specific song or a style, that helps us, that unifies the room. And that says a lot about middle schoolers. They are like, people are always like, middle schoolers. I love middle schoolers. I think they're just like the coolest kids, but not everyone does. And I think it does take like a certain, I don't know, perspective to be able to engage them that way. And so I've really appreciated that you guys blend kind of old, new, introduce them to new songs, and it doesn't feel scary. It's not a space where you're like, this is too much. It invites kids into the heart of worship. And even like when we talked about the doxology, I think at least I was not really certain how it was going to go. That was a request from our speaker this year. And I was like, oh, this could be a little bit different. But a couple of the churches in particular said that's something that we do at our church. And it helped their kids feel connected to the worship that they experienced. And the kids went home with thinking the doxology was cooler than maybe how the church presents it. So it engaged them, but also to equip them with something that they can repeat, that they can remember, that pretty much like the universal church, wherever you go, at some point you'll meet the doxology again. And it helped them feel like they belonged. And so that was an unexpected result for me, but I, again, appreciate that you guys ran with it, but you ran with it well. You didn't like downplay it or like, okay, now's the boring doxology. You know, like you made it your own. And I just thought that was such a neat space for kids to be like, oh, I sometimes think maybe worship could be boring at my church. And we do that. And they saw the connection there. So well done. And that was really cool.
Yeah, I think just from my own experience, I like didn't meet the Lord until later in my teens, but something that I like often felt left out in is like, oh, you know this song?
Yes.
Or like just under the assumption of like, I'm going to know what to do here because I'm here.
Right.
But like, you're here because you don't know what to do.
Right.
Like you're here to like be fed.
Yes.
And so our team like walks in with just the mentality of like, okay, we want to reach everyone. And so we're going to introduce things like it's brand new.
Yeah.
Like, and we're only going to be like, you know, this one, if we already did it.
Yes.
Like that in that same
I love that.
sitting, because it's just, it is isolating.
Yes.
To like, oh, this is your first time in a church setting and you don't know what you're doing. Like, let me be invited in with everyone else in the same way and not felt to be like an outsider.
Right.
So yeah.
Oh, man. They were really good at this, guys.
It's true.
They really care.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I've told everybody, Ripe Worship deserves all the opportunities in the world. Like, you guys are fantastic. And I think it's so interesting that up until this point, at least, you've chosen to be hidden instead of like doing what everybody else does to be known. You know, you could, if you wanted to, go write a bunch of songs and release them and get some money together and put out videos and, you know, get a following for Ripe Worship. And you guys have actively chosen to do the opposite, which is let worship be worship and not be about getting famous. And if God changes your mind on that, like later on, that's okay too. Like, a lot of people have gone the other direction, but I think what has made you guys so special, like you've kept the main thing. And I think with that, the trust from people like Meg and other people who run these different conferences and festivals and things, like your name is getting out there in your effort to not have your name get out there.
Because they're serving.
Yeah.
You guys seek to serve in every space you're in. When I came to Good Soil as an attendee to leading and having you come and help lead, your goal is always to serve the Lord by serving others. And that transcends that space in a way that I think is changing lives for the kingdom. And there's no distractions. For us as the person being served, but I also think for you guys too, you know, your focus really is on Christ. And it matters. It's making a difference.
Yeah. And with that no distractions thing, shout out to Jarrett Moses, because that's a part of it too.
Yes.
Right? Is they could be the best at what they do and have the right heart and have the right posture, but if the mix is terrible, that is a distraction.
A huge one.
Right? That is a big problem for the room. For the kids to be able to have these, like you want to just eliminate hurdles. You know what I mean? Like they're tired. Okay, let's wake them up.
Yeah.
They are grumpy. Okay, let's feed them. Right? They're hangry. You know, okay, let's figure out the mattress thing because this kid forgot his, blankets and pillows and everything. Let's make a Walmart run. But the thing is like, how does the room sound?
Yeah.
Is it so loud that their ears are bleeding, or is it, this thing just sounds so out of place that people are distracted by it, or the screens or whatever? Like all those things, all those different elements are so important to eliminate hurdles so that the fruit can happen. And I think the same way that the worship team does things in excellence, Jarrett, you do things in excellence as well to make sure that the weekend goes without a hitch.
And he does it for the team, but also for me. Like there are so many last minute things. I mean, I appreciate that you say that I direct well, because like just last minute, I'm like, I forgot this. And I never get like the sigh or the like annoyed look. Maybe you are by yourself, but like it's like, okay, how can we make it happen so that this space can happen well? And I really appreciate that. Just again, it's the posture of service. Like it's really just seeking to serve God by serving others and doing what it takes to do that. And it is a gift, and it's a joy to work together in this space and do ministry together.
Thank you. I mean, it is a lot of fun to get to do this. I'll like you said, like I might not make a face or say anything to you, but like that's something I try to do on purpose, where it's like I'm not going to do it in front of everybody, anybody. If I have an issue, like it's going to stay with me. I'll grumble for a second and then I'll be good. But I do that on my own because serving in a church and having any sort of leadership role, I've picked up the whoever the quote unquote leader is for a section, they're going to set the tone for everybody. And I've had times where the people I've been with, maybe not even the leader, but the people I've been serving with or working with, if one person grumbles beginning of the night, whole night's gone. Everyone's going to be grumbling the whole way. Everyone's going to have that level of like, oh, well, I can grumble about this. I can grumble about that. If I do my best to not set that standard, and I've seen some of that change with people, or at least they don't do it around me, because I don't want to ruin the mood that way. I don't want anyone to feel like they're a burden to the tech team. Like they might be, but if they don't bring what they need to us, it's not going to get done, and it's just going to not be done well. Yeah. So I'd rather you bring me that issue and we get it done and I be annoyed about it than it not happen and it just derails stuff.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Yeah. Attitude stuff, it's important to maintain. Man, it's a joy. It's a joy to get to do this stuff together. I would just encourage you guys, if you are here listening to this thing and you are connected to a church that has middle school students in it, or a school that has middle school students in it, or some other group of middle schoolers, please, please, please look up the Breakaway Middle School Retreat that's at Northbay Adventure Camp, at least up until this point has been there, ran by Meghan DeHaven, and sign your groups up. It is a fantastic experience. And I will just say, like, genuinely, the more students that sign up to get towards capacity, the more resource there will be to involve greater elements in the weekend. I mean, we want to talk about what does it look like to bring an artist in on a Friday night? What does it look like to bring a different artist in on Saturday? And involve different elements throughout the course of the weekend that pull even more of what Ripe is into the weekend than we have so far. Yep. But a lot of that stuff is budget stuff too, right? And so, like, let's get Breakaway back to full capacity. It was overfilled before the pandemic to the point where they had to split it up into multiple weekends because there were so many kids coming. And it's on the resurgence, but I would encourage you, if you know groups in that demographic in middle school, this is the thing. Like in our region, in Eastern Pennsylvania, Northern Maryland, Jersey, like in the tri-state, you will not find a better thing for middle school students specifically than the Breakaway Middle School Retreat. So please look it up, sign up, take your kids. It's an amazing time. And it's also probably the cheapest thing for middle school retreat type vibes over a weekend you will find anywhere as well. So they do an amazing job to keep costs down and everything else. So please sign up for it. You will get to hang out with us because we're always there. We're not going anywhere. And, I think, I'm excited to just see what the future holds in relationship, even with In Faith overall, and with Meg and Mike and the things that they do with the Refresh Conference, with Breakaway, now in relationship with the church that you and your husband attend, that we just have been building. Like, we're doing more and more and more together over the calendar year than we ever have. And I think it's a long-term relationship all the way around. So we are thankful for you, Meg. And Emily, thank you as well for always leading the team so faithfully. Shout out to you.
And I just have to say thank you to all of you guys. Your friendship, your leadership, your giftings, the fact that you're even willing to share them in the way that you are. So, like I said before, as someone who's not able to lead in this way, I can't tell you the gift that it is to partner with someone who can lead ministry well in a way that I can't. And so it's just, you guys have been a gift to us, our ministry, to In Faith as an organization who oversees Breakaway and Refresh. And we're excited for the future. And we actually have dates for next year's Breakaway. So September 26th to the 28th, 2025. So get it on your calendars.
You better put it on your calendar right now, people.
So, but we're excited about that.
I think it's already on Emily's calendar.
Yeah. Perfect.
You ready?
Probably.
Absolutely.
She already got the team together.
No.
12 months out.
Yeah. The leadership team was already like,
I was going to say, I think it's almost the same team because they all
Same
just
team
wanted to
wants
do it
to go
again.
every
Olivia
year.
Weatherby gets like one Sunday a year off, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it's okay. I'll wait. Like that'll be my off Sunday, and I will stay the whole weekend."
We'll take her.
It's so funny. And honestly, though, I will say to that, I think Breakaway could be an on-ramp for new people in Ripe Worship too. Like that this could be a space to involve more people because you do have 4 sessions. It could be a place where you let somebody come be a part of one of the sessions to try them out.
Yeah.
Right. So, I just think this is a win all the way around. Listen, if you are here and you partner with us, Ripe Creatives, know part of your resources and supporting us is what creates relationships like this. Yeah. Giving, myself and my family the capacity to build relationships and go do things in like San Francisco and Texas, San Antonio, Texas with Meg and continue in relationship is what opens the door for conversations around Breakaway to happen, right? So your generosity supporting us is what enables relationships like this to happen that ultimately puts, in my opinion, some of God's best artists, creatives, and worship leaders in front of young people often in our region.
For sure.
Is because of your generosity. And so thank you for partnering with us because Breakaway probably is not Ripe Worship without your support. So many of the things that have built Ripe Worship to become what it is because we've had resources to take risks to do that. And so thank you for your generosity to give, to help build this part of our ministry vision that we do throughout the city, as well as fund all of our events and even this podcast. If you're here, you don't currently partner with us, we say this a lot, but we could use your help. We could use your support to grow our ministry, to not just do a whole bunch of stuff for the sake of doing a whole bunch of stuff, but even to just sustain the things we're doing now. We could absolutely use your support if you are here and you're able to partner with us consistently as a monthly donor at any level is super helpful. If that's $5 a month, $10 a month, if it's $500 a month, $1,000 a month, all of it really helps us continue to sustain our ministry so that we can do this for the long haul. And we can see more and more things like this Breakaway thing happen throughout the course of a calendar year. So thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Thank you for considering partnering with us. And Meg, Emily, Jarrett, any final words before we officially say goodbye?
Scott, I just want to echo your sentiments. If you're listening to this as someone who is not a part of Ripe Creatives, but someone who believes in what they're doing, who has been a youth leader in the community, who has a family who's been impacted by the ministry that they're doing here in the Philadelphia area, I just can't encourage you enough to be a partner with this ministry, because the impact that you will have by partnering with them is far greater than we might ever know. It's a transformative ministry that is doing kingdom work on the daily in ways that many of us would never be able to do ourselves. So it's a privilege to partner with Ripe and with each of the individuals that are part of this ministry. So I just want to echo what Scott is saying. And if you're on the fence about it, please, I just want to encourage you to consider jumping in and being a part of this.
Just wanted to say that I love doing this because, like you said, it's a lot of like servants' hearts, and everyone who's involved, especially in Ripe Worship, like we're all going to be doing this stuff anyway. Yeah. It's just a lot of fun to be able to do it in this sort of sense, because we're all going to be serving in some way, giving up our time in some way, doing worship, doing sound for some sort of ministry aspect. Like we're all doing this in some way, and it's just fun to like get to come and do it here.
Praise God.
Thanks for having us, Meg. Like Ripe Worship, we genuinely look forward to going to Breakaway for so many reasons. Because we love the area, because we love the kids, because we love to worship. But it's just so special, like everything that's going on there. So it's a privilege for us to come year after year and be a part of it. Like there's good fruit there, and we're so excited to be able to like labor in that with you guys.
Thanks for your partnership.
Amen. 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 Well, y'all, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the YouTube. Do all the things. We love y'all. Until next time, stay right.
Hey, yo, forget what it cost us. Greed is a monster. I don't need bands on my hands.